sets of human remains were found on Chad Daybell's property Tuesday, belong to his wife Lori Vallow's missing children.
Learning here in the last couple days the reality of what happened to their grandson and now seeing it for themselves.
On June 9th, 2020, Lori Vallow's children were found dead, buried on her husband's property. Lori's adopted special needs son JJ was found dead, wrapped up in tarp, feet and hands bound tightly together by duct tape, and a plastic bag tied tightly around his head. Her daughter Tylee was found in a far more grim condition, with her body being dismembered and burned beyond all recognition. Investigators suggest that JJ was actually buried alive, as the fastenings used to secure him were incredibly tight to stop movement of the hands and legs, and also the bag over his head would have stopped his screams from being heard. Investigators note that these fastenings would only be needed if the person were alive at the time they were buried. The worst part of all, Lori, along with Chad and her brother Alex, were the ones who murdered them, along with many other innocent people. In this video we will go over the cult of Lori and the tragedy of Charles Vallow. In 2015, Lori, a devout Mormon, read a book series titled Standing in Holy Places, which was written by a man named Chad Daybell. She allegedly became obsessed with the books, almost fanatical over their teachings. And 3 years later in 2018, Lori and friend Melanie, who we will look at later in this video, attended the Preparing a People event, which was set up to prepare Christians for the supposed second coming of Christ, which is where Lori would meet Chad in person for the first time.
What I see is from Brigham City to Santaquin, it's like a special plate of land that will never be destroyed. Nothing bad will ever happen in that stretch of land, and that the people will prosper until the second coming without any trouble. So the eclipse is likely a sign of warning of what's coming. I know that the Spirit has guided you and prompted you that you have a role to play. And so it might be by baby steps, but you're going to get there eventually.
This clip highlights the level of manipulation that Chad is capable of, and it rubbed off on Lori. And by the end of the event, according to Melanie, Chad had completely convinced Lori that they had been married in 7 previous lifetimes. Soon after, Chad and Lori began an adulterous relationship despite both of them being married. A few months after this encounter, Lori's husband left on a business trip, which is when Lori held a religious gathering at her home, where they discussed their radical religious beliefs. Melanie would recall Chad lavishing the attention of Lori and talking further about his extreme religious beliefs and the, quote, deeper mysteries of God, unquote. Chad told Lori that he had lived 31 different lives on different planets. He also labelled other members of the group light and dark, saying that the people that were light were followers of Christ and the people that were dark were followers of Satan. Chad referred to Lori as a, quote, eternal being, unquote, who had lived 21 separate lives on multiple different planets. Allegedly, Lori was incredibly attracted to this belief system and became incredibly fixated on this newfound purpose and on Chad. Chad would regularly stay at the Vallow residence when Charles was away. In February of 2019, Charles claimed that Lori had told him that, quote, she no longer cared about him or JJ, unquote, and also claimed that she was the reincarnated wife of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints founder Joseph Smith. This is around the same time that she would disappear for 58 days, letting Charles take care of the kids. This was also the same time that Charles filed for divorce, as he feared for his personal safety after Lori had threatened to murder him on multiple occasions. He filed for an order of protection against Lori at the advice of his attorney, citing, quote, a genuine fear for his life, unquote. This police body cam footage was taken on the 31st of January, right before Lori's strange disappearance. Charles filed a petition with Community Bridges Healthcare for a 72-hour hold and evaluation, according to the documents, and even the staff of the healthcare clinic called Gilbert Police to bring Lori in for treatment. This is Charles's attempt to get Lori evaluated on her mental state to protect her and her children. Lori refuses the help because the psychologists would apparently discover that she's a, quote, translated being, unquote, and stop her plans to prepare for the return of Christ.
What's going on? Why is she here and you're not here, or are you staying here with her?
Long story. She's had kind of a break from reality. She thinks you're LDS?
Yes.
She thinks she's married to Moroni in the past. This is her
You
eighth-
think she's what?
was married to Moroni at the top of the temple.
Angel,
Moroni.
LDS. Angel.
They don't let
She's
me
got
in
a
there.
late probation, and she knows when the second coming is happening next year, so does the prophet.
Okay.
He knows it, she knows about it. She meets with Moroni and Jesus Christ face to face in the temple every day. I've tried to support her as much as I could, but it's gotten really, really bad lately. She's had a break. She says, I'm Nick Snyder. I've taken over Charles's body.
Charles had been married to Lori for over 15 years at this point, without a hint of Lori having any abnormal behaviours or delusions. However, 2 years prior to Charles's meeting with the police, she started to change. This footage you see here is one of Charles's many attempts to get help for Lori and their jointly adopted child JJ, along with Lori's biological daughter Tylee. And you will see later on in this video that the police completely ignored his cries for help.
And Charles has been killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow. I can do it. I'm out there with my priesthood, with my power. She does priesthood blessings. She does.
So
this is
who's Nick
upsetting.
Snyder? Okay.
That's who I'm supposed to do.
Okay. Right. Okay. So he's not at
So
church.
she's
He's
throwing me
not.
out. She took my truck from the airport. Suspect she took my truck from the airport last night when I flew in. She canceled my flights. I had to buy another ticket. I took her back home. I've got a 6-year-old with special needs.
Right. And he's safe at school somewhere.
Right.
Okay.
For now. If she knows I'm here, she's going to go get it.
Okay. What car? What is she driving?
A black Infiniti QX80.
And you've looked all through the parking
All
lots.
through.
Okay. All right.
Lori at this point believed that Charles was going to drop dead due to a prophecy made by Chad, and was completely convinced that the spirits were infesting his body, making him what Chad deemed a zombie. Lori is a member of the Mormon Church, which is a mainstream religion. But it was her close friend circle within the Mormon Church that acted as an echo chamber for these delusions, and allowed them to grow. These delusions were prompted mainly by Chad, who would later go on to marry Lori just 2 months after Charles's suspicious death.
She took $35,000 in cash out of our account yesterday. Sent me payroll. I mean, I just never thought she would do anything like this, but she's just lost touch with reality. I'm not me. She yells. She's unhinged. It's scared the crap out of me.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming you guys have phones. Is that an iPhone?
Yes.
Are you able to track to see where her phone is right now?
The
I
phone's
hear
right here with
iPhones.
me. The phone's with me.
Oh, your phone. Now, how did you get her phone?
Because it was in the car this morning when she pulled up to school. I took the keys out of her purse out so she couldn't leave. That's when I called you guys.
Okay.
Somehow she has a spare set of keys and left with my dog. And so I don't know where I saw this in her purse. Don't think she's here. They were going to give me a key to the room. I was going to go, if you guys will come with me, see if she's in the room.
We can't just go in. If you're not allowed to go in, we can't either. We
That's
can
on my
just.
credit card. She gives me that.
Okay, that's going to be up to them if they allow you to go
Sure.
in. Now, we can't. Now, you guys are
You guys
married,
break
so there
in?
shouldn't be.
Lori had stolen $35,000 from Charles, but due to the fact that they were married, Charles was unable to recover the money from the account. At this point, Lori believes that Charles has a multi-million-dollar life insurance policy on his head that she is the direct beneficiary of, which is a very clear motive to have him removed. The footage you're about to witness was taken the same day as the previous video, and shows Lori's perspective of events. This was only a handful of days before Lori would disappear for 58 days, leaving Charles to look after the kids. Lori got wind of what Charles was attempting to do, so she filed a report against him with the police, trying to make him appear as delusional and irrational. She shares numerous lies about Charles, and you can see quite clearly that the police fall victim to this manipulation.
I can't hold you against your will. But if it's verified by my sergeant, which she says could take a little while, then if it is verified, then I have to take you to Community Bridges. It's a mental health behavior place to get looked at. But while it's being verified, I have no right to keep you and hold you, just so you're aware. So he's supposedly en route with your purse and your phone, and then and the order also, which needs to be verified by my sergeant. So we will facilitate the transfer of the person and the phone, and while we go give the mental health petition to my sergeant, and she's verifying it, you do whatever you feel you need to do.
Okay.
How we're going to get that to go away, I do not know. They can hold you for 24, 48, however long they deem it necessary to get you evaluated.
Right.
Based off just what your husband said.
Says.
Yeah.
Fun.
So, doctors play it
Sorry.
safe.
I just think it's funny because he's trying to tell everyone.
Just let him
Right.
explain.
So,
That's very smart. Because I'm really the one that did
And-
something wrong.
Quote, doctors play it safe, unquote. That is to stop things exactly like this from happening. The police are directly encouraging Lori to run away to avoid being taken in for evaluation. They are aware that Charles has the order with him, and once they see it, they will be forced to take Lori in. This police officer makes a great effort to tell Lori that she can flee if she wants to, and anyone watching this video would tell you that this officer is encouraging her to do just that, by the way he words it. This mistake would directly lead to the deaths of 4 people.
but no, here's the thing: is I don't know, and I'm not going to take sides.
Right, no,
but
I
just
don't
talking to you, I mean, I don't see you being a danger to yourself or anybody else.
The expression famous last words comes to mind. This is exactly the reason why you don't let unqualified people make these decisions. People with mental illness can appear perfectly normal to the untrained eye, and that's why it's up to experts to decide, not the police. The officer says he doesn't want to take sides, but he's directly encouraging Lori to run away from getting the mental health treatment that she so desperately needs.
You got your kids to school.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm not going to play side. I'm just going to let you know that we are required, if you're here, that we will, even with 4s if we have to,
Right.
if you're still here when it's approved, we'll have to take you to CBI.
Okay. And what is it called? So I'm just going to write it down.
Community Bridges.
Okay.
That's where we take you. Now, I don't know who he went through to get the order taken care of.
That's what I'm saying. How do you even get that? He got that in the middle of the night? How do you get something in the middle of the night?
It's family members can do it for other ones who have like drug dependency or not getting help,
Who do
mental health
Yeah, but how would
issues.
he get? He had to come here. Isn't stuff closed?
It's not here. There are places you can go. So
How would you think of something?
I don't know.
You can see Lori copying what her daughter Tylee says here. She's looking for a way to appear clueless and surprised as to what Charles is doing, despite knowing full well that she threatened his life and was completely convinced that a demon named Ed Schneider was taking over his body. She attempts to appear clueless as to Charles's motives, which tells us that she's aware that her beliefs are radical and will make her look insane should the cops learn about them. Thus, she tries to act dumb to make Charles look like the insane one.
It's not illegal. If it was because you're a danger to yourself, it's not illegal to kill yourself. So
Right.
we don't go busting down doors.
Right.
But if we make contact with you, there's nothing separating us. At that point,
You can
we
just
know
say
it's
anything
you.
you want about someone and get a mental health order against them.
So if it's a family member, and depending on what he told the doctors, usually they'll do it just to be safe. Otherwise,
So
say
you can
something
say they're
happens to
suicidal or
you,
something and
right?
get it.
So something happens, you do something to yourself, he's going to go after those doctors. I told you, you didn't sign the order, she should have gotten help,
Right.
that sort of thing. So
Do
there
you
becomes
know?
some liability.
Do you know what he said?
No.
Lori bursts in here saying no to Tylee. When she asks what he said, Charles made it very clear numerous times to the police officers how Lori was behaving, and this cop very likely knew what Charles had claimed. Lori's jump to dismiss Tylee's question shows us that she feels very scared of it being discussed, either because Tylee is completely unaware, or more likely, Tylee may confirm some of the things that Charles had said about Lori. As from the evidence I've gathered, Tylee was present for many of these religious sessions where the insane ideas were discussed. The police officer also makes one fatal assumption here. He assumes that if Lori were to be mentally unstable, that she would only be a danger to herself. He completely fails to factor in the possibility of her being a danger to others. If police had gotten Lori the mental evaluation, JJ, Tylee, Charles, and many others would still be alive today.
He's catching up everybody in it. He calls everybody on my phone, so now he has phone access to all my friends, and he's calling them all to tell them how crazy I am and whatever, because he got snagged, you know.
And this is just a recent thing? Has he done this before, or like?
This is in like 24 hours. Like, or he's done
Like, has he done this before? Yeah.
But this whole situation
Not this extreme,
happened.
but he's been ballistic where we had to leave because he was being awful, and I didn't want him to hurt one of the kids or something.
Lori attempts to manipulate the police officer by providing a motive for Charles to call Lori insane. She accuses Charles of calling all of her friends and calling her insane due to the fact that he was fired from his job. But when you stop to think about it, how does this make any sense? She also makes Charles appear to be a threat to his children by saying that she and the kids had to leave the house because she didn't want him to hurt the kids, further luring the cop into the false idea that Charles is the villain who is set out to get Lori. The reality couldn't be further from the truth. At this point, Lori and Chad were likely plotting a way to murder Charles.
Yeah. 2 days ago, he was like, if you want me to leave, I'll leave, all real super nice, and then when I actually had evidence, and he got really mad.
So this all stems from him cheating and you finding out about it? Yeah, well, I think everyone's kind of learning a little bit on this one, so I can't even tell you what I think is going to happen. We'll see.
It's just a sad scenario, as usual.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Lori's manipulation of the cop has been a total success. She has now convinced him that Charles is out to make Lori look bad as he was supposedly found cheating on her, and because he was fired from his place of work. He also likely believes that Charles is a violent man. The irony of what Lori says here is extreme, as this is the exact time that she started an adulterous relationship with Chad Daybell, which is strictly against Mormon teachings. Due to the advice of the police officer, Lori fled that day, taking the kids with her to avoid being taken in and given a mental health evaluation that would have likely found that Lori desperately needed help. The desperation of Charles at this point was extreme, and you can see it in this video taken the same day as the previous two. Charles was trying to protect not only Lori, but the children.
So what's going on tonight?
I can't get in touch with my kids.
How old are your kids?
6.5 and 16. Okay.
How long have you been trying?
2 days.
Okay.
But she's lost her mind. I don't know how else to say it. We're LDS. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a God, and remember the 144,000. She's come. Jesus is coming next year.
This footage was taken outside of the house where Lori was living. This is also Charles's home too, and he's been deliberately locked out, which raises many questions. Why were the police not concerned at this point based on her irrational behavior? You can tell by his body language that he's incredibly frustrated. He folds his arms and lets out an exhale, which are classified as pacifying behaviors. Body language analysts look for these behaviors as they show when someone is experiencing high levels of stress.
She took all the money out of her bank account today. My truck is gone from the airport. She went to the airport and got it. I just flew in from Dallas. Houston and Dallas. So
where's your truck?
I don't know. A friend of mine's truck picked me up. I went to the CSI to file a report, which is the community bridges or something, to file a report.
So what makes her a danger to herself and to others?
She threatened me, murdered me, kill me.
She threatened to murder you?
Yes. And she said,
how did she do that?
My bishop right there is in the car. He was on the phone with me today when she said, I will have you destroyed. That's what she said there.
Okay, that's not a threat to kill you.
Yesterday was a threat to kill me. The day
Okay.
before was a threat to
What
murder
did she say yesterday?
She said, "You're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now with my powers."
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Says I'm gonna kill you too. Yesterday was I'm
So
gonna
she's
kill you.
speaking as a spiritual being.
She's not here. She's
Okay.
lost her reality.
Is this just all recent, or has it been going on?
It's been going on for about 4 or 5 years. It's gotten really, really bad lately. She goes to the temple every day and speaks with Moroni and Jesus Christ, and they tell her what to do. And now she came to her today, and last couple of days she says, "I'm not Charles. You're not Charles. You're Nick Schneider." I don't know where she gets his names from. She got all this stuff from these people in Utah who tell her how many past lives she's had and probation she's had. And she's was married to Moroni way back when, and she was also married to James the Just. And
Okay, this is all foreign to me. So.
It's foreign to me.
Well,
too.
I'm not
It's
LDS.
Crazy. It's crazy stuff.
I know you're using LDS terms here.
I know, but it's just
Okay.
she's nonsensical.
Okay.
And I haven't seen my.
Is he the older one or the younger one?
He's young. He's 6.5 years old.
Okay.
Okay. I want to do this now. You've got a pickup order. Am I correct?
We do.
Okay. If she doesn't answer, what do we do?
If she
Can
doesn't
I break
answer, we
into my
can't
house?
we can't enforce the order.
Can I break into my house?
Do you live here?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My lease. I pay the lease.
Do you guys have any orders of protections against you?
No, we do not.
So,
I'm gonna go get
no
one from
police
her
reports?
tomorrow. No, nothing.
Okay. So how does she pose a threat to your children?
I don't know what she's going to do with them. I don't know if she's going to flee with them. She's going to hurt them.
You don't even know if she's here, right?
Today on the phone. I can't. All the cars are. The garage is closed. I don't know. She locked the garage door. I haven't been up there yet.
I know.
She
But
said
hold on.
Sorry.
What I'm saying is, do you normally park 2 vehicles in the garage, inside the garage?
Correct.
Okay. So it's a possibility that her car and your truck are inside there?
I don't think she could fit my truck and her car at the same time. She may put them somewhere else. She said to me, "All your stuff is gone. Charles' stuff is gone. You're not Charles. Your stuff is gone." I don't know what that means.
And how long have you been trying to get in touch with the kids?
Since yesterday.
Since yesterday. Like last night or yesterday morning? Or?
Landed in Houston Tuesday about 10.
Okay. Why did you leave?
There's a trip in Houston.
Okay. And when did you leave?
Tuesday morning about 5 a.m.
The police are now required to fulfill the community order to hold her for evaluation, despite knowing about it earlier on and having her there at the police station. However, the bird had already flown. We've just witnessed the police interview with Lori, and we've seen how the cop heavily suggests that Lori flee to avoid being given help. Lori manages to manipulate everyone around her to believe her side of the story, which allowed the multiple murders to happen.
She canceled my flight. She came to the airport, took my truck.
Did she tell you that?
No, she knows the code. She knows where it's parked. She went.
Did she go with you to the airport?
No, but I go to the airport. I fly 45 round trips a year. She knows where I park. I've got handicap plates because JJ's handicapped. So,
did you file a stolen vehicle report with Phoenix?
I know she took it.
How do you know? You suspect?
I suspect. Okay. I suspect.
All right.
I know your term. So.
Okay.
Yeah, but
without concrete evidence, we can't say
I
for
suspect.
sure.
Okay. And she has the keys, the code. It's a Ford, the code, door code.
Door code.
And I just want to see my boys okay. And she's got a pickup order. I need to go. She needs to go, and I'm going to take my son.
So you normally live here?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I live here. Okay. Yeah. All my stuff's in my house.
Okay.
We got a service dog in there, beautiful dog. My daughter's in the front window right there.
So let me ask you this: when you came back, why didn't you just go to the home?
Because she told me not to come near it. All my stuff is gone.
Okay.
I'm not stupid. She could have done anything.
Okay.
I thought this would be the best way to do it. With what she's gone through and what Gabe witnessed with me on the phone today, I thought it was best to have her. She's psychologically, she's gone. Something's happened to her.
How old is she?
45.
45.
Beautiful woman,
so if we talk to her, is she going to be able to have a rational conversation with us?
Oh, she will. I'm sure she will.
Okay.
Yeah, she's just.
She'll probably tell me I'm crazy, huh? Is that what you suspect?
Probably. But
Okay.
You're a dark spirit. That's what she's going to tell you.
Okay.
I'm a dark spirit. Gabe's going to be, he's our bishop. He's going to be a dark spirit. Whatever that means. You're evil.
And you said this has been going on for like 4 years?
Well, it's to an extent, but it's gotten really bad the last several months. And I've been try to ignore it because hoping it'll get better.
Is she on any medications?
No, she won't do medications.
Has she been to a doctor?
No, she won't go to the doctor because she's a translated being, and they would find out she's translated. She cannot be killed. She cannot die.
And that's what she thinks?
Yes.
Okay.
And
she's been telling you that?
Yes, and Gabe too.
Okay.
He heard this, not just me. This isn't coming, I love her to death. This is killing me, officer.
This is what really sticks with me about this case. Charles absolutely loves Lori, and has done for over a decade, and to see someone you love slowly turn into a delusional and insane mess who refuses any help must make him feel extreme pain, and you can see it in his voice here. She turned from loving him to despising him, dehumanizing him to the point where she genuinely believed that he was no longer himself and had been infected with demons. He doesn't go to confront her on his own because he genuinely fears for his life, which reveals just how serious Charles feels about what's happening to her. This case, in my opinion, is about the tragedy of Charles Vallow and how he desperately tried to get help for the woman he loved.
Oh, I can understand.
Our 13th anniversary is next month. We've been at a great marriage. All of a sudden, the last month, it just blew up.
Mm-hmm.
She just lost connection.
Okay. So has she made any statements about wanting to hurt the children or anything?
Today, she said with Gabe on the phone, come take the kids. I don't care what happens to them. Come take them.
Okay, but she didn't make a direct threat towards the kids?
No, not a direct threat.
Okay. And then she said that she would murder you through a spiritual...
No, she said, I can murder you.
I can murder you.
And
she's talking in a spirit...
I will kill you.
Spiritual...
No, she's talking physically. I will kill you because you're not Charles, and nobody will care.
Okay. So she at this point doesn't think you are her husband?
She thinks I'm Mick Schneider.
Who's Mick Schneider?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's the name she used. I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
I'm just like, I'm as bewildered as you are. This is so foreign to me. Normal people as far as I'm concerned, but this happens, it just drives me, I don't know what to do. I need help, and she needs help. She needs help. And I'm gonna go to bed. I got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow. I got to take my son to
And
school.
you just didn't want to go inside because of the statements that she made?
She took my car and I suspect she took my car and my keys. I had no keys to get in.
Oh, okay.
No garage door opener.
Okay.
She knows what she's doing. She took $35,000 out of our bank account today. I can't make payroll Friday for my company. It's just, she changed our bank account numbers. I had to change it myself to get back in, and I saw all the money's gone. I've got $7 in my name. I hope they're okay, but I don't know.
It's valid.
All right. So his question is, he lives here. There's no orders against either one of them. If we can't make contact.
If he wants to let us in, now we're doing a 670 check.
I don't know how to get in. I can have to break a window. I can try to.
Where I was going with this, he was in Houston on a business trip, and then he flies back in to Sky Harbor, and his truck's gone. He suspects that she went there and took the truck. He doesn't know.
My wallet in it, so.
Right. So, all right. Is it this house or the one with the flashing lights?
Right there.
On the side of the road.
Oh, where those palm trees are?
The police proceeded to enter the house after Charles kicked the door down in the garage, but it was deserted. Lori had taken the kids and ran away with the heavy encouragement of the police officer who she had spoken to earlier in the day. Due to failures from the police to enforce the 72-hour hold and evaluation, this would happen to Charles.
Chandler Police Department, anybody inside, make yourself known!
The children would soon be found dead. Tammy would die likely due to being poisoned by her own husband, and Brandon would face an attempted assassination. All of this happened shortly after this footage was taken. Anyone who stood in the way of Lori and Chad would end up dead, and no one would be spared, not even her own children. On September 23rd, 2019, JJ was last seen in his new school. Kennedy Elementary, for the final time before going missing. And the day after, Lori calls in and tells the school that JJ would be homeschooled from now on. A few days later, on the 2nd of October, Brandon Bordeaux, Lori's nephew-in-law, was the target of a failed drive-by shooting in Arizona by someone driving Charles Vallow's Jeep. A week later, on the 9th, Tammy, Chad's wife at the time, called the police after she herself was shot at in a drive-by shooting. She survived. In the following week, Tammy would be poisoned by Chad and would die suddenly on the 19th of October. The coroner wanted to examine her body for foul play, but Chad denied this request, and as a result, nothing came of it. It was around this time that Alex Cox was seen using Lori's storage locker, and was also seen discarding the children's items on a curb. The following month, after Charles and Tammy were taken care of, Lori and Chad got married in Hawaii. Later in the month, on the 27th of November, Chad and Lori were seen packing and abandoning absolutely everything in Rexburg, including the contents of Lori's storage unit. They fled back to Hawaii. The same day, Rexburg police started searching for the missing children to no avail. They searched the apartments of Lori Vallow, Alex Cox, and Melanie, but found nothing. This was because the children were dead, buried on Chad's property, which hadn't been searched at that time. This is a phone call that Melanie made to Chad and Lori after she started being suspicious of the children's disappearances. This call was on the 8th of December, right after the police began searching for the kids.
This is a recording on December 8th at 3:43 p.m. And I am calling Chad Daybell's phone number, and hopefully I will be talking to both of them, Chad and Lori. So here goes the phone call.
Hello, sweet Melanie.
Hi, Chad. Hey, Lori.
Hey, let me put on speaker.
Oh, okay.
All right.
We're enough with the phone. How are you guys?
We're okay. How are you doing, babe?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. I was wondering, where are you guys?
We're just hanging out.
Hanging out? Are you in Idaho?
We're near Idaho.
Okay.
We are now 3 months after the children had last been seen alive. 1 month prior to this call, Chad's then wife Tammy Daybell, after a masked assailant, attempted to shoot her in her garage. And no more than a week after that report, Tammy died of a mysterious illness that Chad had somehow previously predicted with his spiritual powers. Chad wanted to marry Lori, which they did soon after her death, and Tammy was the final obstacle in the way. And instead of getting a divorce like a normal person would, he decided to murder her instead. At this point, Melanie, lifetime friend and niece of Lori, was incredibly concerned as both Chad and Lori had fled to Hawaii, and they had actually told police officers that JJ was living at her house. When she asked them where they are, they're both quick to brush off the question. They know that they have done something incredibly wrong, which is why they refuse to give out any information, even if it's to a lifelong family friend.
I just wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind, Lori.
Yeah, of course, honey.
I want to know, you remember we talked about JJ going to Kay's house, and you told me they went there, and now he's not there? I was wondering what happened.
Well, I had to move him somewhere else because of her actions, so...
Was she doing something? Like, was she trying to come get him or something? Or, like, trying to kidnap him?
Well, she said that lots of times before, but,
Okay, when I asked Chad the other day, I was like, hey, where is JJ? And he said, for my security, he didn't want me to know, so is there a reason I should be in danger to know where he is?
Kay is JJ's grandmother, who had never looked after him when Lori claims she did. Lori would tell any lie to get the police off their backs to buy time for them to flee, just as she did when telling the police that he was with Melanie. Lori makes up that Kay tried to kidnap JJ. Here you can see yet again another petty attempt from Lori to manipulate the situation into making everyone else the bad guy.
No, it's nobody. It's his danger. It's the danger that there's people after me.
Okay.
So if you knew, that puts you in a danger.
Well, just in a bad position.
Yeah, bad position.
Everybody, if they don't know anything, then they don't have to say they know.
Right, so you're just worried. Okay.
I'm just to keep him protected and
keep you protected.
And keep everybody else protected.
I appreciate that. Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
I just needed to have somebody that so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was, because they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Lori does a Freudian slip here. In psychoanalysis, a Freudian slip is when we make a mistake in speech due to the interference of an unconscious, subdued wish or internal train of thought. Lori was just about to say that she needed to use Melanie, but then she carefully reworded it when she realized that she had let it out. Lori knows that she was using Melanie as a diversion to buy time to flee, and she knows that JJ was, at this point, buried in a shallow grave, hands and feet bound, with a plastic bag tied over his head. Lori carefully tries to manipulate the situation into JJ's grandmother being the enemy, and makes it seem like everyone is out to get her to allow Kay to kidnap JJ. It's beyond delusional.
Oh, yeah. So do you think it's like your family? Or, like your family, your dad, or, those people?
My family, well, not my whole family, but as you know, most of my family is working against me and with her, basically.
Yeah. Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Are you afraid of anything? Are you afraid to tell me that you're just afraid that that I could be in danger? If I knew, how could that hurt me? I don't understand how that could hurt me if I knew where he was.
Well, I'm just not telling anybody so that nobody has to say where he is or get questioned to where he is, so I can keep him as safe as possible.
Lori changes her story from refusing to say where JJ is to protect Melanie to her trying to protect JJ. She doesn't want anyone to know where he is, as he is nowhere. None of this is about protecting Melanie. And this is an important detail as it confirms that Lori knows even her closest friend suspects that she killed him. The whole excuse about Kay trying to abduct him is nonsensical, and Lori knows it, but she upholds it as this is her final resort.
Yeah. Okay, I hope that he's okay. I hope you guys are okay. I did have a question that I asked Al at one point, your brother, if I wanted to know, where he was, and he said I did not want to know. And that he could not be found. So what does that mean?
I don't know why he would say that, but it's the same story. I don't even want Al to know. I don't want anybody to know so that nobody has to be worried about it. Nobody has to be questioned about it.
Alex knew that JJ was dead, which is why he tells Melanie that he can't be found. What he really means is found alive. Just 4 days after this call, Alex Cox, the final witness to the murders, died in suspicious circumstances. It is heavily suspected that Alex was directly involved in the murder of the children, as firstly he was the last one seen with them alive, and he was also witnessed using Lori's storage container numerous times around the time of the disappearances, and was seen discarding JJ's items on a curb. And he was also the man that murdered Charles only a few months prior to this. Although coroners said that he died of a blood clot and related complications, it is still speculated that his death is likely linked to the deaths of the children. But not much information has been released to the public as this case is still ongoing. However, something was very off about how he died.
He was blue when I walked in until I started doing compressions. He was blue on the face. He was talking to one of my friends on the phone because he said that he wasn't feeling well, so my friends said that they would give him a blessing. So they were giving him a blessing over the phone. And then my friends texted me and said, "You better get home now."
Okay, so we're doing a blessing over the phone?
So they were not blessing over the phone, and then my friends texted me and said, "You need to get home now. He's not doing well. He's on the ground in the bathrooms." They said that he wasn't.
So someone was here with him, giving him
No,
a
it was on the
blessing?
phone. They were on the phone.
Okay.
Was he talking to him?
He was talking when I called him, and he was talking to Joseph. He was talking to you, right?
No.
Was he
I walked
talking?
in, he was passed out, Mom.
Alex was on the phone with, you guessed it, Chad and Lori right before he died, and they were giving him a so-called blessing. This is highly suspicious, as if he was able to make a call in his final moments, why didn't he call an ambulance? Why did he call Chad and Lori to bless him, who he knew were miles away, instead of his wife, who was closer to him and could have helped? Some people theorized that he was poisoned by Lori and Chad, or that he actually killed himself in part of a religious sacrifice so that Lori and Chad could live together happily ever after.
So he can be safe.
Yeah, so how long are you going to be away for? Are you ever going to be able to come out and come back to society again? Or are you going to keep, come back? What does that look like?
I will do whatever the Lord needs me to do every day, so we'll see.
I just wondered if I was ever going to see you again.
Absolutely, you will.
Okay, so maybe when they're done chasing you, you'll be able to come out again, or?
Yeah, it's a ridiculous thing for them to be working with Kay to find me. There's nothing that's gone on that's, you know what I'm saying? They're working with her in some dark capacity. The police are working with her in some dark capacity. There's no reason for them to be after me in the first place.
Lori makes reference to the police being influenced by dark forces. Lori sees everything she does as God's path, and anyone who disagrees or tries to stop her from doing what she's doing is deemed dark and is naturally controlled by the devil. She also never specifically says yes to being able to come out of hiding, and she just instead changes the subject.
So when we work with the Lord and are obedient, He's going to protect us from adversarial darts and all kinds of negativity. But when we open the door to Satan, he comes in and then he attacks. And then he takes away to make it look like somebody else took it away. But that's not how God works. He doesn't work in darkness.
I agree with you 100%. And that's what the Lord is doing for me. Exactly what he's doing for me.
Oh, it just sounds weird.
Open the door for darkness, Mel. Darkness is knocking on the door all the time because that's the way dark works with the light. And I promise you that I have done nothing wrong in this case, but sometimes you have to hide in the cavity of a rock for your own life safety. And that's what the Lord requires of you sometimes. And that's how it is. And I'm sorry that's how it is, because there is a lot of darkness on the earth.
I know.
It's been after me for zero reason besides the darkness of Kay, which you already know she's dark.
Lori accuses the darkness within Kay, who's JJ's grandmother, as being part of the reason why Lori has to hide her son JJ. She claims that the devil is after her, so she needs to hide along with her adopted son. Lori and Chad were sighted together numerous times without JJ, which is why police were so concerned, as no relatives or friends were looking after him.
So you don't know about her changing the thing for herself to be the beneficiary of the policy and all that stuff. None of that's dark, right?
Well, I haven't seen those documents, so I have no way of knowing.
You've seen them on my computer.
No, I have not. I haven't even looked in on your computer before.
Lori is absolutely angry about the fact that right before she murdered Charles, the multi-million-dollar life insurance policy that she had planned to go to herself was actually diverted to Kay, JJ's grandmother. Lori accuses her of being dark and possessed by the devil for changing this policy, which was only done because Lori had threatened Charles's life on numerous occasions.
You haven't showed me anything.
I don't know why you're being controversial to me, or if you're recording this conversation for the police or whatever. I don't know what your intention is on this phone call.
Well,
I love you with all my heart, and I have forever, and I will always love you.
I appreciate those words, but if you really love me, you wouldn't have told the police that I had JJ with me. That's not what a friend does. I mean, that just makes me look weird, and it's not safe for me. That doesn't look good. I mean, you had to think of my welfare if you love me.
I do, and I did exactly what I felt the Lord was instructing me to do. And I appreciate you.
Lori tried to pin the blame on Melanie for the missing children to buy her time to run away. She offers no apology for what she did to her best friend and niece, and only says that it's what God wanted. Whenever Lori does something wrong or is proven to be in the wrong, she reverts back to the excuse that the Lord told her to do it. This was likely backed up by Chad telling Lori that she was a living deity herself.
I don't believe that what you're doing is correct. I just don't. I mean, Tammy dies, and then your husband died, and then he's missing. It just doesn't sound like God's plan to me. It gives me a gut feeling, like in my gut, it feels weird. It doesn't feel right. I don't have peace about it. I never have felt 100% peace about it. I always felt like a little weird in my stomach about all these things.
You know me, Mel. You know me. This does not sound like you. This sounds like you've been influenced by somebody dark who wants you to believe dark things and have fear of the celestial world.
When Melanie or anyone faces Lori with logic, she accuses them of being possessed by the darkness of the devil. She accuses Melanie of being possessed by someone, as to her, that's the only rational reason as to why someone doesn't do Lori's will. Lori is a mentally ill person who has been pushed into believing these delusions by Chad, who has taken complete advantage over her. She trusted and believed in him, so much so that she killed her own children. Melanie was so lucky to survive Chad and Lori, as everyone else who opposed them turned up dead sooner or later.
I don't know what else to say.
Stand Christ when he comes again, and he's coming soon, and we will all stand there, and you will know at that point that he has supported me and has supported me the whole time, and I have not been deceived.
I just want to testify that I know Tammy and the conspiracy theories. My sister-in-law's right behind it all, and I hope that you're not being influenced by that dark team.
I don't know who she is. I'm sorry, you said your sister-in-law? I don't even know her.
Oh, I know, but she's coming up with the same type of theories, and it's just not true. My own children were there. They testified that Tammy had been getting weaker and sick, and I begged her to go to the doctor. Her heart was failing her. She was physically falling apart, but she hates doctors, and she just passed away.
Chad accuses anyone who is suspicious of his ex-wife's sudden death and assassination attempt as being part of a dark team that is trying to take them down. Chad tried to shoot his own wife Tammy in a drive-by, and when that failed, he poisoned her and refused permission to allow the coroner to do an autopsy to properly determine the cause of death. Her corpse has since been exhumed and analysed, but the results have not been released in the public domain at the time of making this video. Chad is the most evil out of the pair. He reinforces Lori's delusions and manipulates her. He poisoned Tammy to get her out of the way so that he could marry Lori, just as they killed Charles to get him out of the way.
I know I've been told for years that Tammy would pass away at a young age. And I had no idea that Lori would even be a part of my life. I just knew that my life had two segments. And that I know Tammy's on a special mission and she's with my kids. She's visited them. there's so much, Melanie, that you just have to have faith, and this is not some sort of master plan. There's no way Lori and I could ever come up with this. It's just...
You can understand my concern, correct?
I can, from an outside perspective, but
from someone who knows as much as you know, no, not really. But we can feel Dave's influence on you. I can feel that, for sure.
Chad uses the excuse that it was a prophecy that Tammy would die young to explain her mysterious death. Prophecies don't exist. Murder does. The most interesting thing here is that Chad begins to project. Projection is defined by psychologists as the mental process by which people attribute to others what is in their own minds. Chad knows that he conspired with Lori to kill all these people, and because of this, he projects that Melanie is accusing him of doing just that. Melanie makes no accusation here. Chad strongly tries to defend against an accusation that never existed. This is incredibly suspicious, and any investigator who had any doubt as to their implication would now be pretty much certain that Chad and Lori were directly involved in their deaths.
Your behavior is not one of somebody that's in Christ. Your behavior. What?
Never had any idea that you would be the person of all people to turn me. I cannot believe
I am asking questions, and I am concerned for you. That is what somebody does when they care.
You don't sound like you're concerned. You sound like you're accusatory. You do not sound concerned. You sound pissed off.
I'm not. I am troubled. Maybe that's the better word. Troubled. Because these things, like you being with Chad before he's even divorced, is unusual behavior for a person that's seen Jesus Christ.
I was never with him and he was never divorced.
Honey, I've seen you guys together. So I haven't ever seen you I've never seen you with Chad kiss him and walk around the track at BYU with him. I never saw that. You
say you're the one that's just feeling guilty about being with someone before they were divorced.
Oh, honey. I think that's not what we're talking about here.
Wait, it's not what we're talking about here. That's what I'm saying. You are going off the deep end.
Well, I'm just saying this is not a behavior of someone that sees Jesus Christ. It's not the behavior.
Really? Have you ever seen Jesus Christ? So do you know what the future behavior would be if you had seen Jesus Christ?
I know that when I prayed.
Lord asks me to do every day, and he does protect me, and he is protecting me, and he will protect me against this accusation as well. And we will both stand there with him, and you tell me if I was lying or not. But we're both standing there with Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Lori makes an effort to point out that Chad was never divorced. Getting a divorce is considered a sin in their religion. So the only way to find another partner in Lori's eyes is to kill their current partner. It sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly what Chad and Lori did to both of their partners. Instead of getting a divorce like a normal person, Lori and Chad had been seeing each other well before Tammy and Charles died. And they were most certainly having an affair together. Melanie saw them together kissing each other before Charles died, so Lori blatantly lies to Melanie's face here despite her seeing it firsthand. And she can't find an excuse as to why she was seen with Chad, so she just uses the Jesus cop-out and ends the call. We are now over a year on from the phone call with Lori, and Melanie has been taken in for questioning by the police. At this time, local authorities had located Chad and Lori in Hawaii and served Lori with a court order requiring her to produce the children within 5 days. She failed to provide her children, and as a result, she was arrested and charged with 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of her dependent children. Soon after, on June 9th, 2020, human remains were found on Chad's property in Salem. Chad was arrested later on that day and was charged with 2 felony counts of destruction, alteration, and concealment of evidence. A day later, Kay Woodcock, the biological grandmother of J.J. Vallow, announces that one of the sets of the human remains belonged to her grandson. The Ryan family confirmed that the second set of remains belonged to Tylee. Authorities then officially confirmed that the remains were those of the children. This interview was conducted by the police to gain an insight into the motive of Lori and the strange cult that led to their deaths.
And so she was talking to everybody about that Charles was now had this evil spirit in him. Okay, so that was kind of what they were talking about.
Okay, tell me about that evil spirit. Did the evil spirit have a name?
Yeah, remember we talked about it. It's the Ned guy.
Right.
That's what they said he was. He was this Ned person. Okay. All right. So she's kind of talking to the girls, and they're all kind of talking about what's going on. And she's like, I don't know what we're supposed to do about this. How do we get, how do I do this? I don't understand what this. So nobody has any information about casting out at this point. And Chad calls and says, hey, I want to let you know that I did some research and figured out that this Ned. Oh, it's been a while since I thought about this. Ned,
it's all right. I know you're talking about this.
Yeah, you even forgetting details. It's been 2 years, right, or something like that. So Schneider. Thank you. And Ned Schneider is in him, and she was taken back a little bit because it was a new concept for her. She didn't know about that this could happen. So this was introduced from Chad. Absolutely 100% sure of that. Okay.
All right.
And so she didn't look like she made it up because she had never talked that way before. She never said anything like, hey, there's an evil spirit, and that never occurred to her. So when she first told me, I could tell she was like trying to absorb it. It looked like it was new for her. And so that's where it came from. And so I'm sure they had a lot of conversations, which I wasn't privy to. So then when she came together in January with all these girls, she was talking about this problem she had about this Ned person now coming in. And she said that her reasoning for that was that Satan was breaking eternal law, and that he could now do this, like he had some kind of power to do this. And so now these evil spirits were able to get into these bodies. So
Melanie is directly in the center of Lori's inner circle within the Mormon Church. She is Lori's niece and saw the entire process of her being manipulated and influenced by Chad, which ended up with the kids dead. No one knew about castings or people being replaced by demons from another world before Chad joined the call. It was entirely him that brought up these delusions and slowly manipulated everyone into believing them. The fact that one of Chad's first actions in the group was to accuse Charles of being a zombie shows us that right at the start, before Lori even knew about zombies, that he had started to plan Charles's murder. From this small detail, we can see clearly that Chad was the one who was plotting these murders, and he just had the job of convincing Lori, who was at this point completely obsessed with Chad, to go along with it. Lori didn't know anything about demons or possession. It was all Chad, and it gets hilariously ridiculous as we go on.
I go into the temple, and I'm going to the dressing room, we're getting our white clothes on, and she is in the dressing stall. I come out and I stand behind. They have an arch window in the Phoenix Temple, right in the women's room, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I get this like heat all over my head, and I'm like, what's that? So I said, Lori. And she comes out, I said, feel my head. And she goes, oh, it's happening? And I was like, yeah, it's really hot on top of, I didn't have a fever. Nowhere else on my body was hot. And it wasn't because the sun was coming through. It was really like this heat. And it lasted for, I don't know, like a minute or two. Mm. And she's like, wow, it's happening. I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty awesome. I'm thinking that's good.
The deluded will often use common and logical events to provide proof of the supernatural, or whatever nonsense they believe. As the great Sherlock Holmes once said, insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. Melanie believes that simply because she feels heat on her head, that it must be divine intervention, and she seems totally convinced here, instead of searching for the actual logical explanation. And when her friends falsely confirm this, Melanie accepts it without question. It's why surrounding yourself in an echo chamber is really dangerous. They only tell you what they want you to believe, not the truth. From the outside looking in, we may think, how can someone possibly believe this level of nonsense? But we forget that these people are already very religious and in a very radical Mormon church, who then get introduced to an even more radical teacher, which is Chad. Slowly but surely, he was able to convince Lori's entire circle of his mad ideas, and no one questioned it. They would literally wear white robes in their huge temple, like Jedi.
So this is what the castings really were about, is to invite the spirits to leave or with their so-called power or their, things that they would bring. I never thought this was like a huge deal. I mean, I talked a little bit about it before. I always said too, it's like we did prayer, she did prayers to help cast or something. I don't know how I said it, but to me, it has no effect. There was no power in what she did, so it had nothing to do with anything because it was all by Satan. Now, when Julie Clement got involved, I remember one night we were at Lori's, the last house she was in before Charles died. I think he was still alive. And I remember they were doing a prayer, and Julie Clement and Sulema with their, energy, they both do energy work. They're saying, she's like, I saw this dragon, something like this, and I know Sulema said she saw that later, and I didn't see anything. So that's just what they imagined in their, some evil spirit tricking them, something.
Melanie at no point says that the spirits possessing people, turning them into zombies, is a load of rubbish and completely made up by Chad. She still believes some of it. 2 members of Lori's cult allegedly saw a dragon whilst doing their energy work. Despite dragons being invented by man over 3,000 years ago, when people discovered dinosaur bones and invented a creature. Dragons are fiction, sadly. Julie and Zulema allegedly saw the dragon, and surprisingly no one else did. For 2 people to apparently see the same fictitious creature at different times highlights that echo chamber effect I talked about earlier. Social conformity is a type of social influence involving a change in belief or behavior in order to fit in with a group. If everyone in your group believes in spirits, and they said that they've seen dragons, then you're likely to adopt those beliefs as well, as ridiculous as they are. How do you think Hitler managed to create a nation of hatred? Well, if everyone else believes it, it must be true, right? But the most interesting part of this interview is that when Melanie tells the detectives about the dragon, instead of saying that they were just making it up, she herself rationalizes it as an evil spirit trying to trick them. Melanie is still under the influence of Chad's teachings. She still believes that their little group was being attacked by evil spirits, which just shows you how strongly influenced these people are.
How many castings do you think that you were involved in?
Gosh, I don't know. I'd have to make a guess because I wouldn't know.
What would you guess?
Maybe 10? Maybe. I'm not sure. And they were just for Chad, I think most of them were on Charles, and not the kids. And Tammy, I know they probably did. I don't know what they did with the kids. I don't have any idea on that part. I'm not sure on Tammy. Maybe?
Let me ask you about Tammy then.
Yeah.
Was Chad there, or was it just Lori?
Well, they did. There was one, I can't remember who it was though. Sometimes these things, I don't remember all of it, because sometimes I was often detached from a lot of it because I was involved in my own personal life. So I necessarily was.
And I know I'm asking a lot for try to reach back and grab.
Yeah, so we were in a circle, and we were holding hands, and Charles had passed away, so it had to have been somebody else because Charles was dead. And Sulema, she started talking about that. She was into, moving the earth and the earthquakes and all that. You probably know that. She thought she had the power to do that. And I remember Chad and Lori said something, and I don't know if anybody else said anything. So who was it?
So Chad was there in the circle.
Oh, yeah.
Lori was there.
Yep. And I think Melanie and Alex, Sulema, me and David. David doesn't remember any of it. You can ask him. He's blocked it, dude. He was so blocked. He can't remember it.
And this was after Charles died.
This was right after he died when we had that little meeting. Remember how I said we got together one time in Charles's house?
The cult conducted roughly 10 castings with Melanie present, just to give you a scale of how active this group was. All of these castings were for Charles or for Tammy. Chad wants Lori's spouse dead and his spouse dead so that he can marry Lori legitimately in his twisted view. He's trying to radicalize this small group into assisting him murdering them. Lori's brother Alex was also present at all of these meetings, and he believed Chad's teachings to the extreme. As a result, he assisted in doing their dirty work for them, and some even speculate that he took his own life for them.
But this casting was for what reason?
To continue to help the spirits that are in the bodies to talk them out of leaving their bodies.
Okay. What bodies?
And definitely, well, because not JJ, definitely, because JJ wasn't deemed a zombie until, September, right?
Okay.
So they would definitely not have done it about JJ. So probably Tammy and Brandon, because they said Brandon was definitely in. And that was the night she came up with this idea, this map thing of zombies in the world. Arizona, Utah, Idaho, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then she's like, okay, Chad says, and she'd be on the phone, how many zombies in this state?
We learn here that Chad had also accused JJ of being a zombie in September, along with Brandon. On October 2nd, 2019, Brandon was the target of a failed drive-by shooting in Arizona by someone driving Charles's Jeep. And JJ was, as we know, found dead on Chad's property in 2020. Everyone who opposed Chad and Lori were considered dark zombies, and their murders were planned. Which is why in the phone call with Lori, when she accuses Melanie of being influenced by dark forces, that carries some extreme weight. The level of manipulation that Chad achieved was incalculable. He had convinced the entire group, and most importantly Lori, that he knew exactly how many zombies were left in America, state by state, and convinced her that it was her mission to eliminate them.
He would say, okay, there's, grab a number, 100 in this state, something in this state, and then throughout the whole world. And so he got this, these people, or these entities are in other people's bodies. So her idea was, it was for her to get rid of the zombies. The idea was for her thought she had the power to cast out, she'd say in the name of whatever and with her power. And then he would check, oh, there's none left in the state, I don't know.
If I had a dark spirit in a body.
Yeah.
A dark spirit.
Yeah.
And that body, that spirit is cast out of that body. What enters that body next? Can it be a light spirit or can it be a dark spirit?
Oh, so that did occur with Charles, they said. So, okay, this was the first thing, is they were trying to cast out normal, like casting out, right? Mm-hmm. But they said, oh, no, it's still in there. Chad would deem it still in there. We can't get him out. They're breaking eternal law, right? This is what we're saying. Okay. They cast his personal spirit out and then put a new one in. So then they finally said, we got him out finally. Through our priesthood powers, we got him out. Now, who's the next one? Garrett? Garrett was the next one that came into Charles. And this was supposed to be a more advanced, darker spirit.
Okay, so if
according to them.
If the body keeps receiving dark spirit,
yeah.
Does that body have to be destroyed?
Oh no, see, they were learning. It was never figured out. This was Chad pretending more and more along the way, is my opinion now. It's like he was just like, okay, that didn't work, but what can I come up with to keep Lori happy, right? And let me just figure this out and come up with, I don't know if he even played all the way through, because Lori was so pushy about being with him, and I think he was so infatuated, which you and I both know he was with her. I think he just got more creative in his darkness. And I think it just went on line by line by line. I don't think, that's my feeling. I could be wrong. Maybe he had the whole, some people say, oh, a writer, knows the end of it.
Melanie makes the perfect point here. Both Lori and Chad were completely obsessed with each other, and Lori believed that Chad was speaking the truth with everything that he said. Lori clearly has some form of undiagnosed mental health disorder, and because of this, she was deemed not fit to stand trial on numerous separate occasions. She was vulnerable to Chad's influence and took full advantage of this, exploiting her infatuation with him. Melanie finally accuses Chad of pretending, which is glaringly obvious to all of us. But to her, she was surrounded by believers and the social conditioning took hold. Darren Brown did an amazing psychological stunt when he used social conditioning to make a man, by his own free will, commit murder using everyone around him to encourage him to do it. It's called a push, and it really shows how humans are able to rationalize doing horrific things simply because others tell them to.
I don't know.
All right, so let me ask you this then. With these castings, we know that, or I think we know, it was with Charles. They tried casting Charles.
Yeah.
They, at one point, tried casting Brandon.
I think so. It feels familiar, I'll just say that. Because they deemed him as really dark after, right about the time probably either right after Charles died, because then they were trying to help Melanie, because now she would go now hooks into Melanie. She got totally taken out by Lori. And Brandon is all these things, and he's now, not only is he dark, he's actually, we found out more about him. So first he's this. Oh, wait, we discovered more about him. Now now we know he's actually a high level, he's like up there with Hitler kind of thing, right?
Right.
And yeah.
Did they ever say that?
He was one of the Hitler crowd. He was one of the group that associated with Hitler. Mm-hmm.
Was he? So tell me again about the knocking on the door.
So something about one night there was this is what Chad would tell Lori, that Tammy woke up to a knock at the door, and then he would say, maybe to Julie, I don't know, to his wife, I don't know, but he said, she told me that he said it was Julie's spirit knocking at the door, that's what woke her up. So that was one indication, and it seemed like there could have been other things, I can't recall, but she just said, I felt this feeling of like they were kind of like around her house, these evil spirits. That's what it felt like when she was telling me. So you know how you feel things, you picture it, but you don't have the words to describe it. That these evil spirits are now trying to get a hold of her. And then she says, she's starting to question if he's seeing somebody else.
Lori was. Or
no,
Tammy
was. That's what she
right.
would tell. So that's how they knew the evil spirits were in her, is because now she was starting to, and I don't remember what she said, something like, are you seeing another woman? Something maybe like that.
Do you know when that was?
Yeah, that was that time we went, September, that weekend I was up there. She would tell me that while I was in her apartment.
Lori told you that.
Yeah, and that was when she was telling that JJ.
I think we did.
Chad knocked on his own wife's door pretending to be the spirit of Julie. Think of this in practical terms. He would have had to have left the house at night, bang on the front door, and then run away, deliberately tormenting his then wife Tammy. So not only did he murder her, but he tormented her also. This is incredibly deranged and just shows how devoid of emotion and empathy Chad is. Chad began to call Tammy dark the moment she caught on that he was having an affair with Lori. Anyone who stands in his way is murdered.
It got really weird after that, actually. She called Chad. She's like, did we get the body? We had a prayer. Did we get the spirit out? Because he would be the one that deemed it. And he'd say, yes, it left. And then, well, where is it? And then, what is his body dead? Because they thought maybe his body would drop dead, which never happened. So she thought that Charles was dead. Okay? But anyway, we find out. Then he said, so he kept changing things, the story all the time. And then he would say, oh no, that's not really what, because, she obviously found out Charles was alive. Oh, that's not what happened. It was Brandon's father's body that died, or something stupid like that. He would always try to put it off, like find an excuse why it didn't work. So when that first time she said that Charles was going to get in the car accident and die, that January, because I remember it was right around my birthday, and then, because it was right after Christmas, and then I said, well, why didn't he die? And then Charles's excuse, which was always Julie Rose's excuse that I heard, was, because of agency, it didn't happen. These people didn't meet up with the right plan, and it didn't go according to plan, so it just failed it. So Chad, that would always be excuse for why things didn't go. He just would lead her along to one, and so they thought they were always discovering things, and the adversary was getting smarter and smarter, and they were just leading, and it just got stupider and stupider, the story did, and it just got more crazy, and sometimes I'd go.
Chad predicted numerous times that Charles would drop dead in many different ways, and none of them panned out. This is purely speculation, but it seems that Chad was plotting his murder, but wasn't able to execute his plans for whatever reason. So instead, he came up with an excuse. Remember that he predicted that his wife Tammy would drop dead in the same way? Perhaps he had planned to poison Charles or try and run him down in a car, which failed. It's safe to say that Chad is the sole reason all of these innocent people died. He was the one orchestrating it all, using Lori's brother Alex as a puppet to do his dirty work. Alex shot Charles dead in cold blood and was seen using Lori's storage locker, presumably to move the children's bodies. He was also witnessed discarding their items on the roadside.
No, let's back up. So Tylee was deemed dark back in July.
She was deemed dark at some point.
Cast for Tylee?
I do not recall that.
Okay.
But I know at some point she was called dark, and
who called that?
Well, probably Chad would tell her, because Chad was the one she would go to. And I remember I said this out loud to you guys, is she used to think she got a lot of revelation, but now that Chad's in her life, she just relies upon him more. So she kind of didn't think she had the power anymore because he seemed to have more power than her.
Do you know at that point in time if there was any tension between Lori and Tylee?
There was always tension.
Was there?
When wasn't tension?
Tylee, Lori's biological daughter, was also called dark by Chad, and soon too she ended up dead. Chad wanted to be with Lori alone without the responsibility of looking after her children. If they had killed JJ, Tylee would have gone to the police or at least have said something she shouldn't in questioning. So she too had to be taken out of the picture. Even when Charles was still alive, Lori would often tell him that she didn't care about JJ, which gives a very clear motive as to why she wanted to get rid of him, and as a result, Tylee too. Melanie also talks of constant tension between Lori and Tylee, as she was aware that her mother was having an affair with Chad.
And then I went over to their house, and anyway, it was the last time I saw him, and he said, I 100% believe in it, Melanie.
Alex.
And so this is the thing, is I think because he 100% believed in it, he had to, because at this point he had probably killed the kids, is my guess. He probably did it. I don't know. I'm guessing. Maybe you guys are guessing too. But he 100% believed it. And she didn't 100% believe it. And then when I called her, when I realized, oh, holy cow, I called her. I tried to talk to her. She was not there yet.
What do you mean by that? She's just...
I said to her, so let me, and I don't remember the full conversation because I was on fire in my mind, like, holy cow, right? I am freaking out. But what I do remember is I said, there's something seriously wrong here. I said, the gut of my stomach says something seriously wrong here. And she goes, that's just dark.
Did he express any concerns to you about JJ's whereabouts?
Did he express any concerns
David.
to me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall him expressing concerns.
On the drive home, did you guys talk or text Lori or Chad?
No, I mean, what would we have said about JJ? Just, I know that he questioned her, like, where is JJ? Let me see if he has a zombie in him. And he didn't believe it. I mean...
Alex, Lori's brother, was totally convinced by Chad's delusions, even more so than Lori. In fact, based on what Melanie says here, it seems like Lori still has some doubts about Chad's beliefs, but went along with it anyway, likely because she was so infatuated with him. Alex, as we remember from the phone conversation, said that JJ couldn't be found, heavily suggesting that he knew JJ was dead and buried, as why else would he say that? It is heavily suspected that Alex did most of, if not all of the killing, and then killed himself. Court records filed in May indicate that Lori has, quote, extremely complex and fragile mental health, unquote. She was deemed unfit to stand trial on several occasions. However, she was restored to competency and declared fit to stand trial in April of this year. Her case had been on hold since June 2021. Lori and Chad Daybell are accused of numerous felonies, including murder, after the deaths of her children. They are also accused of the murder of Chad Daybell's first wife, Tammy Daybell. However, both have pleaded not guilty to all charges. Both Lori and Chad are facing potential death sentences for their crimes, which is one of the reasons why the trial was delayed. It was decided by officials that the two must be tried together. Both Lori and Chad pleaded not guilty, and their lengthy trial will begin on January the 9th, 2023. Joshua Jackson Vallow, age 7, Tylee Ashlyn Ryan, age 16, Charles Vallow, age 62, and Tammy Daybell, age 49, would all be murdered because of the greed of one man. Chad Daybell. Chad and Lori were an unstoppable force, backed by a loyal cult of followers who provided the perfect environment for Chad to manipulate Lori and Alex into killing their own family. Many details of this case are still unknown to the public, but what we can say for certain is that the tragic coming together of a mentally unstable woman and an incredibly manipulative man who was surrounded by a radical religious cult was the direct cause of these 4 murders. I hope that I have accurately told this story. I have done my best to get the research correct, but feel free to comment on any inaccuracies that I may have made. And if you think I've done a good job, then please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you for watching this video.